Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 midnight Eastern Time, and 1 p.m. on Saturday in Hong Kong until next week. We got a time change coming up here in the United States. We are broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, over the years, I've received about 110 emails from people asking for help since 2016. Last Wednesday, I got this email. Pam, my name is Anna, and as a library media specialist out here in Maine, I wanted to thank you for putting together your page. There it is. About useful links. Our library is hosting a special Astronomy from Home workshop this month, and I'm putting together a resource guide for the attendees. I have some student volunteers helping me, and your useful links page led us to some great websites to check out. My volunteers requested I reach out and let you know. As a thank you, I wanted to pass this kids astronomy guide that my student Ashley found. And there's the link there. Oh, I'll do it.
Oh, sorry.
So that's the one Ashley found. We really enjoyed reading through it and thought you might too. Ashley was very excited to share it. Could you add a link to it on your page that I mentioned above? I'd love to show her that her contribution was included. She's part of her school's astronomy club, so this project means a lot to her. Let me know. Thanks again, Anna Jones. I wrote immediately and I said I'd get to this week. And then I went and did it right away. I love encouraging young people by posting their contributions, and we've got about 3 on there now. So it's on the Everyday Spacer blog. Can we get that? Let's get that useful links page. It's up here. I'll get it. And I will add it to the chat for people. Oh, we've got someone already.
Yep. Yeah, I was waiting for you to be
Oh, great. Okay.
So
there's that link.
Zedric Crystalje. Please correct me if since I'm probably butchering your name.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
All right. So to get us started for tonight, our topic is the new particle search at CERN, part 3. We'll be back in 6.8 seconds.
There.
So this project has 3 stages, and they recommend that you do them in order. Stage 1 is identifying displaced vertices. Then in stage 2, you identify the signatures of known particles. That's electrons, muons, photons in the Atlas detector. In stage 3, there are 2 parts to it. You search for Higgs boson decays to a pair of photons, and you look for long-lived particles decaying far from the beam collision point. Jeff, tell us about parts 3A and 3B of the new particle search at CERN.
Yeah, basically, I was, since each part is so long, I was thinking this might actually be 2 shows, but part A is relatively short and sweet in their instructions, and then we'll get into the doing it. Part B is longer instructions, but a lot of those instructions are describing what they do in the background to give you the image that you see. It's interesting, but it's not needed for the task.
Oh, okay. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So here is the project.
Okay. And we go to their website. And again, I'm going to do it live because when we get to the finding stuff, it's a lot of moving around and stuff, and doesn't really sit well with just doing a slideshow of it. And so we're at their website, and they've got some more stuff up here that wasn't there last week. They've got
sort of notifications, right?
Yeah, notifications. Yeah. And this is for Reinforce, which is the group that's producing this and a previous one. And they've got other stuff too.
Yeah, we've come across them several times.
Yeah. I kind of like Reinforce's stuff.
Yep, I do too.
it's more technical, I think, than a lot of the other things on the site.
I think so too, yeah.
But the way they design stuff is really, really good.
Cool.
And they've put a lot of work into it, and I think it's makes it easier for people to see. So here we go, and we'll be talking about 3A today, and then 3B once we've done a little bit of this.
Alrighty.
So 3A, and here it is. We'll go into the tutorial first. Again, it's on HYPATIA, and we'll get into that once we've done the tutorial.
All right.
Basically, each link for each section goes into a different setup in HYPATIA. So if you want to look for this stuff, you have to go to the 3A link here.
Okay.
So you have to open it from each one.
Good to
that
know.
You want to do.
All right.
Okay, so this time we're looking for 2 photons, which, if you remember from last time, basically show up here in this calorimeter without a track going to it.
Right.
Now, a photon has no track. A converted photon, which is an electron-positron pair that then converts into a photon, and then produces, then hits the calorimeter. So we're looking either for no track or an electron positron pair that disappears before getting to here.
Got it. And just so you know, Cliff is here. Hi, Cliff. Welcome.
Hi, Cliff.
Thanks for joining us. He was at a wedding before.
And Cliff, you couldn't see it because I'm sharing my screen, but I waved. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this is because they're looking for the Higgs boson, which they say decays into two photons.
Okay.
And you don't have to calculate it here, but the software will calculate where the vertex is when you do the two photons. And the reason why they want to do that is because it'll show where it was when it decayed into the photons. The vertex will show where the photon burst happened, which means that if it's not in the dead center, something moved from the center to where it burst. And if it's of the right energy, that's possibly a Higgs boson.
Oh, cool.
And so that's why we're looking for these.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Good.
Yeah. So, and the converted photons, we talked about them in stage 2 also. They look like this. You have to scroll it, you zoom in so that you see that they're actually diverging and they're not just a single line. So,
and that was last week's show. We've covered parts 1 and 2 in last week and the week before.
Yep. Okay, once you've identified the clusters of interest, click on each of them, which highlights it in purple, and then click the right button to insert it into the selected particles table as either a photon or a converted photon.
That sounds a lot like the last.
Right.
Okay, so it's very similar in terms of how it functions.
Right, but you're looking for pairs, and you only care if it's a photon or a converted photon.
Okay. Cool.
Then HYPATIA will automatically provide the calculation for their invariant mass in a separate column. And the invariant mass corresponds to the mass of the parent particle.
Okay.
And it's calculated by the deflection of where it actually burst.
I haven't seen invariant mass in terms of particle physics before. So yeah, see, this is a great way to actually learn some stuff too about particle physics if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I am.
Yeah. And 3B gets more into a lot more technical detail too. So
okay.
I guess 3A is good because you learn the invariant mass, which they use in 3B also. Also displayed is the ET miss, and it's whatever the hell that is. I used to know what that is. that
A
Greek
row?
symbol is. Maybe. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
If anybody knows, let us know.
Yeah. And are not used at this stage. They measure the magnitude and direction, respectively, of the momentum imbalance from all tracks.
Okay.
Basically, so they're already telling you that there's stuff that shows up that we're not using, because that's used in the next stage.
All right.
And here's the important part of it, not just identifying it, which is basically monkey button push.
Okay.
I mean, really. I mean, ooh, there's one click, there's another click. You know, you're not done yet. Then you give it 1 to 5 stars, depending on extra clusters, additional leptons, which are electrons or muons. And you can rate it accordingly. Reserve a 5-star rank for events with additional leptons. So basically anything that has more than just the photons.
So you're alerting the scientific team that this is something they should probably look into in more depth.
Right.
Okay, I get it. Cool.
And 1 star is if it's just the basic. And they go into a little bit more of that in the field guide. And the reason is because you could possibly get something that decays into 2 photons that isn't the Higgs boson. Maybe some particle came in from outside the detector and decayed, just happened to decay. So, the 1 to 5 stars gives them, if it's 4 or 5 stars, they really need to look at it. If it's 1 to 2 stars, maybe they look at it to see if they can edge those out of the tracks that they present to people.
Alrighty.
And remember also to ensure that the tracks are aligned on both views of the detector, because it could look like in one view they're coming together, in another view they're nowhere near each other.
That's really nice that they actually point out the zoom function. That definitely please use it.
Zoom. Zoom.
Zoom is your friend, just like before. Good.
Yep. And ready to go. And then the add for reinforce again.
Nice.
And then we'll go into the field guide for 3A, which again has a lot more stuff. Again, they have a good video, which I recommend watching. Then they talk about what happened in the other stages.
Sort of a reminder, okay.
Yeah, a reminder.
Cool.
And this looks the same in a lot of these. So stage 3, Higgs boson, decays into photon. And this is the first time we're dealing with real events. These aren't simulated. So we're playing with real data now.
Okay.
During the LHC Run 2, which is part of the 13 teravolt open data release by Atlas. It's to study Higgs bosons by reconstructing their decay to 2 photons, one or even both of which may be converted photons, as in the image shown below. Basically, photon converted photon.
Okay.
You will search for 2 photons or a photon and a converted photon. They don't say anywhere that you'll see 2 sets of converted photons. I don't know if that's just because you never will, or they just don't expect it to happen.
Okay.
Or even 2. Never mind. Or even 2 converted photons.
Okay.
My reading comprehension, yay. Okay, converted photons, yes, stage 2. Now, and this is where it shows where they're telling you about what they did to clean up the data so that you're only seeing some, the stuff that might be interesting.
Okay.
They've chosen to only display tracks at the primary vertex, which have a potential energy of 3 gigavolts, where the transverse momentum is calculated on a plane perpendicular to the axis, actual electron volt. And quite frankly, this is a lot of, here's this calculation. I'm sure you can look this up and find out exactly what this calculation is doing.
Well, it has a lot for, has plenty for a lot of different kinds of people. If you really like the math, There you go. You can really
Yeah.
dive deep into this. I do like this.
You're right. Yeah.
These projects where you can sink your teeth into. It's
And
good.
here, E1 and E2 are the energies measured in the calorimeters. P1 and P2 are the respective momenta added vectorially.
Okay.
So you're the energy minus the momentum.
Okay.
It's looks like you're finding a hypotenuse there. Because but except that this is minusing. So, and again, they're talking about rating it. And they're giving a little bit more detail on how to rate it. 2 photon plus tracks and clusters close to the beams should be ranked with 2 stars. So if it's just 2 photons, it's 1 star. If it's 2 photons plus other stuff, 2 stars. 2 photons plus tracks, clusters in the central region should be ranked with 3 stars.
Oh, interesting, because in the field guide, it always seemed like extra stuff to me, but this looks like it's actually pretty important to the task.
Yeah.
Okay. We usually find those in the tutorial. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 photons plus. Yeah, you see, this group does the field guide differently. In most groups, the field guide is, here's what different things look like. This is just like an extension of the tutorial.
Oh, okay.
2 photons plus at least 1 lepton should be ranked with 4 stars. And a lepton is an electron or a muon. 2 photons plus tracks and clusters in the central region and at least 1 lepton should be ranked with 5 stars. Apparently, if all of this stuff is present, then it's very likely that you're dealing with a Higgs boson.
Oh, that's pretty cool and very specific. Good.
Yep. And I'm going to keep that up because I might pop back to it when we look at the real data. So,
alrighty.
Here is the HYPATIA. And so here we go. It looks pretty darn obvious that this is 2 photons, because we'll zoom in a little bit. There you go. No tracks inside.
Right.
And let's just make sure that they converge in this view also. Yeah, it looks like they're coming. Now there's a red dot here. They didn't talk about that in the tutorial, but that looks like where the vertex is.
Okay.
So maybe they're helping us out a little bit. So we'll click on one, and that's a regular photon, not a converted photon.
All right, so that's the task, to identify.
Yeah. Click on that one, and it's a photon.
So Scott, he started with, my knowledge on particles is weak, but I am finding this fascinating. Yes, weak, I got that. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Scott. And if you want to really sink your teeth into a project, this is the project for you.
So now that we've calculated these, and I'm going to call it a 1 star because there's really not much else going on here.
Right.
So that's a 1 star.
Okay. So this is the added, it looks very similar to the last segment, but this has got the stars that will alert them to what is most likely the.
Here we've got a photon and a photon because there's nothing else going toward it. But there's also other stuff coming from. In fact, let's zoom in a little bit better there. Yeah, that's all. Looks like it's pretty much coming from the same point. Let's get in a little bit more on this one.
Yeah, they look really, really close there.
Yeah. That's a little bit farther out there. So now let's see what they said here. Plus clusters in the central region. We have those.
And you've got 2 tabs going, so this might be a good strategy for someone out there doing the task too.
Right.
To have the field guide open on one tab and the project itself where you're accomplishing the tasks on another. So
2 photons and clusters close to the beams. Now these aren't close to the beams. So 2 photons plus tracks and clusters in the central region should be ranked with 3 stars. These are in the central region here.
Yeah, I'd say that's
Yeah, so
that qualifies, right?
That's a 3-star.
All right.
So let's see what else we've got. Okay, here, let's zoom in on this one. That looks like a converted photon to me, but let's make sure that that's not.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
It does get thicker here. Let's zoom in on this one. Let's see if we can see it. Man, it's hard to tell on that one.
They usually look more divergent, though, to me.
Yeah, I know, but it definitely looks wider here than it is here.
Okay.
See if I can get any more. So it's hard to see it, but it looks like it's diverging. It's really, really hard to see on that one.
Well, and with a lot of these projects, they have more than, they have multiple people looking at them, so people have a different, idea about it.
So I'm going to call that a convergent photon, and that one's a photon.
Right.
And
how many stars?
Let's see. Are these all coming from the same spot?
Looks like.
It looks like, yeah. So let's just see. 2 photons plus tracks and clusters in the central region should be ranked with 3 stars.
Yeah, I'd say it's at least 3 stars.
Yeah. Well, I don't see a.
Oh, right. No lepton.
Because a lepton would be a track that goes all the way through and bursts into here.
Ah, got it.
Or a muon, which just zips through and doesn't burst anywhere.
Yep.
So
3 stars, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Cool. So still very doable.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah. And so
lots of stuff going on here.
Yeah. So let's zoom in on this one, see if that looks like it's divergent. This purple here it doesn't look like it on that view. Let's look on this one. See, these look like they're divergent, but we can see from this other one that they're not really the same thing. And that purple looks like the same thickness all the way through.
Okay.
But there are
at least 2 photons, right?
Yeah, there are three photons, it looks like. So this might be a converted photon, but it doesn't look like it to me. So let's see what they say. 2 photons plus tracks and clusters in the central region and at least 1 lepton. 2 photons and plus at least should be ranked with 4 stars. You know what? I'm going to say 4 stars on this, but I'm not positive. We're going to call this a photon.
Right.
Call this a photon. Call this, that goes straight toward it. The only trouble that I have with this is that it's hard to tell because you can't scroll these. So when you zoom in enough to see, you can't see that it's actually lined up. You can't
drag it around. And
yeah, you can't see that it's absolutely lined up with that.
Well, they might have a forum or some feedback that you could write to them, and for the audience, anybody who goes and plays with this, that's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna at least
4 stars on that one.
Yeah, because there's something going on here, and
nice. Okay.
So that's that one. There's there's going to be a lot more of those. But I figured I'd then go on to stage 3B.
Alrighty.
And the stage we will look once again for displaced vertex. That's that's basically where things split up that aren't coming from the center.
Okay.
Basically, something carried it to that spot, and then it then broke up. So a point away from the center of the detector and seems to be the origin of at least 1 muon long track. So these are the ones that head all the way out,
right?
Like this, and a jet of other particles. So as basically one muon and other things bursting out of it. If you believe that a certain muon track originates from a divergent vertex, highlight it and then insert it into this selected particles tables by clicking the plus muon button. So that's kind of like what we did with one of the earlier ones.
Alrighty. Yeah, it brings to mind that there's never ever a reason to be bored, people.
Yeah.
If you're retired and you're looking for something to do, this might be a really good project. If you ever feel like you're bored, hey, come on over and help them out. This is real science.
Yep. In case you find two muon tracks originating from the same or from different divergent vectors, select both of them. In this case, HYPATIA will automatically calculate their invariant mass in the selected particles table.
Oh, and they gave, all right.
Yeah, this value corresponds to the mass that a parent particle should have, if there was one, in order to decay into those two muons.
Oh, and Cliff had another suggestion. This would be interesting for someone looking to get into physics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, because it's a great way to learn the language, and there's forums, you can talk to people and see who's out there and what they're doing. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Cliff. Thanks so much for chiming in.
Yeah. Okay. Once you've done this, you have to decide if the displaced vertex could be the decay of a long-lived particle, not just a background event.
Okay.
So basically, you want to find out whether it's a particle originating from the detector or just some particle that got into this zone and broke apart.
Okay.
You can do this by studying the information in the track cluster table, bottom left of the screen, and the event information panel on the upper right hand side of the screen. This is where we get into using more of the information that they have. And here it is.
Oh boy.
Yeah. The information provided for a detailed explanation, you may consult the Need Some Help with This Task. Now,
alrighty.
If you notice, in each case, they've had a Need Some Help with This Task.
Yep.
And I've never clicked on it because what that is, it's the field guide. So if you click that, it pops open the field guide.
Interesting. I thought it actually would go to a forum or something because I don't think I've ever.
It does that in the other.
Clicked on it either.
In the other Zooniverses.
Oh, I see. So that's particular to this project.
Right. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So instead of because remember on this screen we're not on any specific event because the events happen in HYPATIA.
Right.
So you can't discuss an event.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And so you don't get as much hand holding with this one as you do with some of the other Zooniverse ones. Assuming, and I call it hand holding, but on some of the other Zooniverse ones, I've asked questions on there and there was no one there to answer the question.
Yeah, I've noticed at certain times there are more people than others.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are sleeping,
right,
of course, there's not going to be
right
and chatter going on in the forum or anything.
Yeah, and I suspect that if this event is not hosted in, Australia, Hong Kong, Japan, Philippines, that area, probably they're not going to be up and awake when we're doing this show since we're at 9 p.m. here.
Yeah.
And as you head east, it's just getting later.
Yep.
So, so we're probably not doing it. And when I was checking, I would check after work, so it'd be nighttime anyway. So it's getting late, anywhere east of here.
Right.
So here are some of the things that we're looking at. MDV is the invariant mass associated with a divergent vector. It corresponds to the mass of the parent particle, which decayed into the particles associated with the divergent vector.
Okay.
So, that's an interesting number there. RDV is the distance of the divergent vector from the primary vertex in the transverse plane. Basically perpendicular to the beam axis. So it's basically how far away from the beam is it? ET miss, and it's
there's that again.
Yeah, whatever
it's
that.
Rho. Yeah, it's Rho.
I'll just call it Rho, and we'll either be right or wrong for the rest of the night. It's Rho measure of the magnitude and direction, respectively, of the momentum imbalance, PT miss, and I'm pretty sure that PT is potential. No, that's not potential energy. From all the tracks in the transverse plane. So here, instead of just looking at the divergent vectors, they're looking at all the tracks and calculating what the momentum is of the particle that broke up into everything.
Okay.
D0 is the distance of the muon track projection from the primary vertex in the transverse plane. MUV is the transverse mass of the divergent vector calculated from. No, I'm glad they don't expect us to do these calculations. It does it for us.
HYPATIA does it, yeah.
And that's good. That's good. And again, and I don't know why it wasn't doing this yesterday.
Okay.
It was not doing this yesterday. Today it decided, because I ran through this twice today just to basically refresh myself on it. And yeah, it's just
G-jitter. Oh, yeah. Nope, that's something else.
Yeah. So if you find a divergent vector with an RDV value of 140 millimeters, between 140 and 180 millimeters, you should give the event a high rating. This is because the divergent vector is very likely to have been produced in the region shown as black in the event display, where there are no inner detector planes. Oops, that is as far down as it goes. In this case, the divergent vector does not originate from the interaction with the material and is a good candidate for the sought after particles.
The Higgs boson.
Right.
Very cool.
Or anything else that is interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first thing that they're looking for is the Higgs boson. The next thing they're looking for is, what the heck could have produced that? I mean,
hey, you could really make a discovery doing this work.
Yeah. I mean,
that's cool.
In science, the best answer is one that produces more questions.
Interestingly enough.
Yeah. So we'll continue. Similarly, you should give high ratings to events with a large MDV. And by studying Atlas, researchers have shown that requiring a large MDV reduces the probability that the muon of the divergent vector originates from interactions with detector material. So they don't want outside particles whacking a piece of the detector and producing particles that we're counting here. So basically only give a high rating if it looks like it's not from something like that.
Okay. Because
that divergent vector could just be, some cosmic ray hit a piece of the detector and it burst someplace other than the center of the detector.
So basically noise.
Right, noise.
Okay. All right. And that's one of the things that a lot of the tasks do. They want you to eliminate the noise so it doesn't get counted in their
right, yeah.
In their research. Got it.
And I think by marking things 1 star, it gives them a list of things that are potentially noise that they can then go back to their routines and filter that stuff out. And
I figured it was a prioritizing tool.
Well, my thought is they're probably looking for the high star ones, but almost as useful is probably the low star ones of this is stuff that we can get out of the data set.
Okay.
If they can figure out a way to filter for that, then it cleans up the data a little bit better. In other cases where the earning additional stars are, if a muon has a high PTU, I think that's potential energy, but I'll just say PT mu
there.
PT mu, yeah. Or if there is additional activity in the detector, i.e. there are 2 divergent vectors or more than 1 muon on the divergent vector. And highest 5 stars should be PT gigavolts is greater than 45 gigavolts. RDV is 140 to 180 millimeters, and MDV is 10 gigavolts.
All right.
So I'll keep that. That'll be in the field guide also, and then of course there. And then field guide. Oh, here, let me scroll back up because I didn't do that after going through it. again, another video. And these videos are good to watch.
Cool.
They might be a little bit more coherent in their explanations than I'm being. Well, you know.
Well, it's a good introduction.
Yep.
It's a good way to introduce the
Yep.
the project to people.
So here they talk about stage 1, stage 2 again. And stage 3B, long-lived particle hunting. Alice detector during the LHC Run 2, part of the 13 teravolt open data release by Atlas. And the purpose is to discover new long-lived particles.
All right.
Predicted by certain theories beyond the standard model.
Oh, okay.
Which decay into a muon in a jet of particles.
Well, that's really great.
Yeah. Basically, what you're doing is looking for things that, you've got a bunch of physicists all with their own. This particle fits the data, or fits the theory. Someone else says this different particle fits the theory, and they're all fighting, and you get to pick the winners here.
Off to the races. Yeah.
You get to show which one's right, maybe, or at least give evidence. There's very little that's certain here. Yeah. Many extensions of the standard model suggest existence of heavy particles with long lifetimes. Well, and long lifetimes means milliseconds,
right,
folks. Which you'll be searching for long lifetime particles, namely events containing one or more such particles, which decay at a significant distance from the production point to a final stage containing charged hadrons and an associated muon, as the event shown in the image below.
Oh, okay.
And this is, and if you notice, you see a muon just.
Yep. Yeah, boy, if you go to this, definitely check out all this stuff, and and like you have the tabs open, I would actually leave a few open to have different segments of these to just flip between.
Like in stage 1, you're looking for the divergent vertex. I keep saying divergent vector, but it's the displaced vertex.
Oh, got it.
Maybe they called it something else somewhere else, but displaced vertex. We'll call it that now. If you believe that a certain muon originates from a displaced vertex, highlight it and insert it into the selected particle of the selected muons by clicking plus muon button. Once you've done this, you have to decide if the displaced vertex could be the decay of an LLP and not just a background event by looking at some discriminating variables. These variables, they talked about them before. Impact parameter. They didn't actually describe what that was before. Oh, let's go through there because they didn't describe what they were before. These variables are the muon transverse momentum with a PT. Impact parameter, which I don't remember seeing before. The D0, which under certain conditions is correlated with the perpendicular distance of the displaced. Yeah.
Talk about high voltage, very high.
Yeah, that's why they don't do so many tests, because it takes them a long time to charge up to do a single test.
Yeah, and I know they break down the machines.
Yep.
Between tests and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, if they were
like CERN
to run one of these tests without charging it up, you could just see like all of Europe just go dark. There's a small fusion reactor going in San Diego County. They have to do the same thing because one test of theirs uses 4 hours of output, of total output of San Diego electricity.
Of the whole city.
Yes.
Okay.
So they charge over time so that they don't just tank the city.
Okay.
They have a deal with the electric company that they have to do that.
I see.
Okay, so the invariant mass, MdV, of all particles associated with the dV, and the distance between the primary vertex and the dV. And so here they repeat these criteria here.
Right.
Are likely to have been produced by the decay of a sought after. So this is the range of stuff that you're looking for.
Cool.
More precisely, you'll be looking for a muon stemming from a displaced vertex and accompanied by a bunch or jet of other particles. So there's the muon, and there's just more stuff coming out of it. And you can see from the two different views that they're all coming, that they are actually coming from the same point.
Okay.
And so the observed particles are the product of this decay. And here's what's going on. 2 protons hit, and they produce something that then decays.
Yeah, the dotted line is what they haven't been able to detect it, right?
Right. Yeah, they can't detect it yet.
Right.
But it's something.
And then they can when it gets to be the
right.
straight line.
Yeah, and by calculating, they know this. They
right.
can they can calculate these, and they can derive this from that.
Right.
So different examples of events. An unusual event with a displaced vertex containing a pair of muons. You see 2 muons. In order to increase the probability that it's a signal event and not a background event, they've already implemented certain filters on the events to provide better visibility. Filters provided are the distance between the primary vertex and the divergent vector or displaced vector must be at least 5 centimeters. So they're filtering out everything that does not happen at the beam center. Displaced vertex should contain at least 3 tracks. Since displaced vertexes containing 2 tracks are often originate from cosmic rays, which traverse the detector and are counted as background events, as shown in the image below. Oops. So, yeah. Shocking. Yeah. Good.
Pretty
Thanks.
shocking, really.
Thanks, Cliff.
All right.
When you inspect the sample of real events for the signature of LLPs, you should perform the following steps. If there's at least 1 muon associated with a displaced vertex, click on the track, and then click plus muon. It will then be inserted into the selected particle table. Its charge, PT and D0, will be displayed, and you use those to give it the stars. And it's again this equation again from the last one.
It's a little different.
Yeah, some of the parameters there are a little bit different, but it's essentially the same basic equation. They're just different inputs into it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
And
so math.
So we're not necessarily looking for the Higgs boson. We're looking for anything.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, they'd probably be happy as a clam if they find stuff that none of their theories predict. Because it's like, stick it, theoretical people. Here's one. ET miss is a quantity measuring the imbalance of energy on the tracks. So if one track is a sharper angle than the other, then it means that there's an imbalance of energy. And that means that something headed off in a different direction that we can't detect. And possible neutrinos which escape detection.
Yeah.
So
almost nothing interacts with neutrinos.
Yeah. So you see more than 2 muons in the same vertex, you can insert both in the selected particle table, and their mass will be calculated according to the formula below. So,
Still, that's HYPATIA doing it.
yeah.
Don't worry about the
Yep.
math if
Yep.
it's not your thing. If it
Yep.
is, there you go.
Yep. Star rating. Okay. Event details window, the bottom right screen. Yep. They talk about what they should be. Basically, this is just a review of them. Studies by Atlas researchers have shown that requiring a high MDV reduces the probability that the muon of the displaced vertex originated from the interactions with the detector itself.
Noise.
Yeah, noise.
Yeah.
So footnotes. The D0 here explains the D0.
Oh, cool.
This is where the distance here from the source to where this thing happens is pushed off that way by something. You know, something pushed it. Basically means something went off this way. You know, equal and opposite reactions.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So conservation of momentum. Yeah. Equal and opposite reactions. So
plenty
yeah
to work with there.
And I'm going to bring this back up to where is the not there, where it says right there. This is what we're looking at.
Right.
If it has all three of these, it's a 5-star.
Right.
Okay. So now we go to HYPATIA, and this is
So these are the tasks for 3B.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Let's pull that back so that we can see the photon there. There we go. So you can see there's a muon there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to click on it. And it's a muon. There we go. It's the only one there. And here we have, here, let's take a look. PT GeV, where do we see that? I don't see that. Oh, hang on. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Right here. Okay, that's nowhere near.
Not in range at all.
Yeah, well, it's nowhere
140 to 180.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the one that should be greater than 45.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that's 14.
Oh, yeah.
D0, they don't list here. Where was it that they talked about it? But
I think if it doesn't have any one of them, it's eliminated, right?
Well, it's low stars. But the more of them it has, the higher the stars.
Okay.
D0. Is it in here? No, I don't see the D. Oh, there's the D0 right there. So RDV and MDV. RDV is right there, 1.96, and we're looking at 140.
Yeah, nowhere near.
And 10. Oh, no, they're reversed. They're reversed. This RDV, 140, 180, this is 53, still nowhere near. And MDV is 10 gigavolts, and this is 1 point. So, yeah, this is a 1-star. I'm going to say 1-star because it's nowhere near any of that stuff. Next one.
So it looks like the default is 1-star. You have to actually change it if you need to. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Oops. Hang on. Let's scroll in a little bit better. I don't like the fact that it loses the long stuff. Because that isn't right. I'm trying to get this one. There we go. Got it. Okay, so there's a trick here, is that if they're really close together, you can get the wrong one. If you notice, there's lots of converted photons and photons here.
Yeah.
Look at all this stuff going on here.
Right.
So that's a muon.
That's a muon, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the long one that heads all the way out. Okay, so PT is 25, still not 45, but it's a heck of a lot closer. 52, not 140 to 180. 2, still closer, but I'm still going to give it a 1 star because.
Alrighty.
It's
for all that complication, it's still just a 1 star.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a muon.
Yep.
And there's only one. Again, nothing great. To getting closer to being in that range, but I'm just gonna. It's trying. I'll give it 2 stars.
2 star. Okay.
There's a muon. It's
Just
the only one. Yeah.
Yeah.
15, low, 1 star.
All right.
That one's already selected.
So it takes a little to figure things out. The task itself, still pretty reasonably easy to do.
Yeah.
All right. That's good.
Oh, hang on. This one, 70. That is greater than 45. So still not in that range or that range. Let's give it 3 stars. Okay. I think you've got it. You've got what we're doing here.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that demonstration. This is just fascinating. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
All right. So if you like space, you might like Star Party at your place. I have created something new, and it's for me to come to you, bring equipment for your next event or an evening of stargazing with your friends and family. I have been doing stuff like this since 1991, and I have the equipment to bring to you. It would be a nice evening under the stars. Some restrictions may apply, like can I get there? Is it a full moon? What's the weather like? So this sort of thing we are concerned about when we're looking for things in the night sky. Call or write today to learn more. Did we find it? There it is, right there. And we have some stellar events this week. That's March 11th through March 18th. Not a lot, though. March 12th, Venus and Mars are in conjunction. And remember, everything's kind of shifted to the morning. On the 13th, the time changes here in the United States for sure. I don't know about other places. You want to check that out. And which means like next week's show will be different than this for you, possibly. And in this particular case, we spring ahead. So if it's 9 p.m. now, it'll be 10 p.m. next week. All right, on March the 16th, the weekly Space Hangout has a show dimethyl ether detected on a planetary disk. Find out more about that on YouTube, Weekly Space Hangout. On March the 18th, we're back to our Friday night show, and I think we're gonna talk about types of telescopes. Change things up a little bit. Find us Fridays at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the Everyday Spacer Facebook page and the Everyday Spacer YouTube channel.
Okay, ongoing events and activities. Fly your name around the moon.
I finally did mine.
Add your name to the Artemis 1 test flight of the Space Launch Systems rocket and the Orion spacecraft. They'll basically line them up into a thumb drive and just stick it on board.
Yep, there's the link for that. I'll grab it and put it in the chat too.
And ESA's Build Your Webs Challenge. Get creative, build your own model of the James Webb Space Telescope using any materials you like.
They mean anything.
Yep. Yeah, we saw one made out of food. I think that was from Australia, that one.
I don't know. It was fascinating.
That makes sense. Nothing was barbecued, though, so maybe not. That's for you, Cliff.
No, it's Barbie.
Yeah.
Shrimp on the Barbie.
Which, of course, they're not doing this season because it's been wet.
Is it still raining, Cliff? I feel bad for you, man.
Submit your web challenge projects to the ESA education team. Here's Here, more comments. Let's see. Nope.
Nope.
Oh, that's just you adding stuff. Oh. Cliff had one.
Oh.
Do you think they found some particles that don't conform to the known laws of physics? Is that why some things can't be detected?
That's a very good question.
I don't think they found any that don't conform. I think they're hoping to. I think that's what this is for. Things that can't be detected. Well, they know that neutrinos can't be detected, and they know that they exist because they can detect them. It just takes really big detectors, and you detect 1 out of 10,000 or something like that. I mean, something ludicrous. It might even be 1 out of 100,000. I don't know, but it's something silly there. The numbers. So they just don't expect to detect neutrinos, but they know that they exist and they have detected them.
Yeah, they just don't interact with much of anything.
Yeah. So
thanks, Cliff.
Yeah. So I mean, it would probably be their wet dream to find a particle that no one's thought of.
Can we say that on the air?
Okay. Well,
did you have more of this one?
Yeah. Submit your web challenge projects to the ESA education team. The selected projects will be displayed in a gallery on the ESA education website.
And I added that link to the chat.
Okay.
So it should be clickable.
Yep. It's for students age ranges 6 through 19. And there's nothing about location, so you can do it from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, they say school children, homeschooled, public school, whatever. So if you or someone you know has done something interesting involving space exploration, science, astronomy like that, we love to share our live. At this point, though, join us again next Friday, March the 18th, to discuss different types of telescopes. I found a fantastic PDF about this. All right, last check on the comments, and we will also look for you online after the show.
Yep.
Thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate you being here for us. Cliff, Scott, did we have anybody else? Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Zedric?
Zedric, yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate that. So have a good night.
Yep, good night.